Alright guys, welcome back. This is Mark with Realize the Self. And in today's video, I wanted to go over something that's kind of foundational to self-realization, and that is the unrealness of this world. And we're going to go over different ancient cultures and their viewpoint on whether this world is real or not. And most of them will agree that this world is not real and dreamlike in nature. So we could just start off with science, and matter in the universe is predominantly empty space, with atoms being roughly 99.99999% to 99.9999999% empty. The dense nucleus occupies only a tiny fraction of the total atomic volume, making the universe almost entirely empty. While this applies to all matter, the overall universe is also dominated by vacuum between, not just inside atoms. At the atomic level, if an atom were the size of a football stadium, the nucleus would be a marble. The human body, by volume, is over 99.99% empty space. And if this space were removed, the entire human race would fit into a sugar cube. The universe, the cosmos, is overwhelmingly empty, with galaxies themselves being over 99.99% empty space. And so this just shows that everything's empty. The universe is just empty space, which is fascinating. And this directly ties into what we're talking about here with self-realization and the world not being real. And so when we talk about, we could dive more into what science says about this, and let's go into the unrealness of reality. So our brain doesn't show us reality. Neuroscience is clear. We don't experience the world directly. Our brain builds a model of reality using incomplete sensory data. Color, solidity, time flow, even objects are interpretations, not facts. In that sense, waking life is already a controlled hallucination. A phrase used seriously by neuroscientists such as Anil Seth. This is similar to a dream, but with more feedback loops. Science shows experience is constructed, not that reality doesn't exist. Physics dissolves solid reality. Modern physics wrecks common sense. Atoms are mostly empty space, like we talked about. Particles behave like probabilities, not objects. Observation affects the outcomes, such as the quantum measurement problem. Time and space are not absolute, so the world is not solid. The world's not independent. The world is not fixed. The world is not observer free. This sounds like a dream, but physics doesn't, and physicists don't quite call it that. And this just stop short of saying nothing is real. Reality is deeply intuitive, not imaginary. Time and self are not fundamental. Experiments and theory suggest the present moment is a brain-generated slice. The self is a process, not a thing. Memory stitches continuity after the fact. The mirrors dreams where identity and time are fluid. This mirrors dreams where identity and time are fluid. So a key point is the way we experience reality is unstable, not the existence of reality itself. And so what ancient teachings say, teachings go further, but more of a symbolic and experiential way, not so much as a scientific. I don't think they had all the tools and resources that we have today to measure reality and the atomic structure of reality. And so Hinduism, they talk about the world being Maya and often translated as an illusion, but it's misperceived as it's not non-existent, like mistaking a rope for a snake. The world exists, but not in the way we think it does. Buddhism talks about reality is empty of inherent self-existence. Everything is impermanent and interdependent. The dream metaphor is used to break attachment. Buddhism's careful here. The world is functionally real, but ultimately ungraspable. Taoism, language fractures reality. Naming creates false divisions. The Tao cannot be captured conceptually. Again, not nothing exists, but when what exists cannot be boxed. Where this is a dream idea actually comes from, it's powerful because in dreams things feel real until awakening. On waking, you realize you misunderstood the nature of the experience. Ancient teachers use this to provoke epistemic humility. They weren't saying this world's fake. They were saying you are overconfident about what you think is real. And science shows that our experience of reality is a constructed model, and ancient teachings suggest that mistaking the model for ultimate truth causes suffering. Why this matters? So even without claiming the world is unreal, this perspective softens the ego, reduces rigid beliefs, encourages compassion. Remember, compassion. This is vitally important. Makes suffering less absolute, creates psychological freedom, and that's why it keeps resurfacing across cultures and centuries. And then what's really fascinating too is we could go into all the different ancient belief systems and about the world being unreal. So ancient Egypt, they viewed reality as layered, not singular. They didn't think the world was fake, but that they thought this layer wasn't the main one. They believed a person existed across multiple realities at once. Daily life was just one thin slice of a much bigger cosmic order. What's unreal here is the visible world is incomplete. What you see is not what matters most. Reality continues seamlessly beyond death. So it's not really an illusion that they, in their belief system, but partial reality mistaken for total reality. Ancient Greece, Plato comes very close to calling the world a hallucination in the allegory of the cave, and we talked about this. I talk about this in the book, and there's another video we talk about this on as well. People mistake shadows for real objects. True reality exists beyond sensory perception. Education is literally an awakening. The sensory world is derivative, not false, but misleading. Sight gives opinion, not the truth. Heraclitus said, everything is in flux, stability is an illusion, and they never step into the same river twice. Reality appears solid only because change happens faster than perception. Unreal equals falsely stable. And then we go into some more interesting viewpoints, such as the indigenous Australian cultures. And they say dream time is more real than now. This one's fascinating because the metaphor flips. For many Aboriginal cultures, dreamtime isn't fantasy, it's the foundation of reality. The present world is a surface ripple of ancestral action. The land is alive with past, present, and future happenings at once. So what's unreal? Linear time, the idea that now is separate from then. Waking life is like a thin skin over a deeper dream. And we go back to ancient China and Taoism. Zhang Zi's famous story, I dreamed I was a butterfly, or am I a butterfly? Dreaming I am Zhang Zi. This isn't a joke, it's a philosophical truth or bomb, or Taoism says all distinctions are provisional. Identity is fluid, reality changes with perspective. Unreal equals rigid categories. Not nothing exists, but nothing exists as fixed. And then we go into Mesoamerica, such as the Mayans and Aztecs. The world is seen as a divine performance. Maya cosmology treats the world as periodically created and destroyed, maintained by ritual, dependent on divine attention. Humans were actors in a cosmic reenactment. Aztec thought went further. Existence is unstable, life is slippery, and permanence is an illusion. Reality persists only through participation, not solidity. And then Norse culture, reality is seen as temporary and doomed. The Norse didn't call the world unreal, they called it temporary and fated to dissolve. And the gods die, worlds end, cycles repeat. The illusion here is lasting order. The meaning comes from permanence, not from permanence, but from action despite impermanence. Ancient Judaism, mystical strands, veils, and concealment. In early mysticism, God hides through self-contraction. The world exists through concealment. Creation is a veil over infinite being. Reality is real, but concealed. Truth masquerading as separation. Unreal equals mistaking concealment for absence. Indigenous American traditions, the world as a story. Many Native American traditions treat reality as narratively shaped, responsive to language, altered by ritual, vision, and myth. Visions are not imaginary, they are alternate across access points. Unreal equals assuming only one valid mode of knowing. And so this is seen across all these ancient cultures and traditions and peoples. And we could even go a little bit further too, which is kind of fascinating because I just went down the rabbit hole on this. Ancient Persia, Zoroastrianism, reality as a moral test world. So Zoroastrian thought divides existence into the invisible spiritual realm, Menog, and Getig, the material visible realm. The material world is not false but temporary and contested, a battlefield between truth and deception. Dreamlike aspect, what you see is not the final state. Appearances can actively deceive. Reality is moving toward a future awakening. The world is more like a trial simulation than ultimate reality. The Celtic traditions, the thinness of worlds in ancient Celtic cultures in Ireland, Wales, and Gaul. The human world and the other world coexist. The borders dissolve at certain times. Time flows differently across realms. Heroes wander into fairy realms and return centuries later or minutes earlier. The dreamlike aspect is reality has permeable boundaries. Time and causality are unreliable. Ordinary perception misses neighboring layers. The world is thin, like a veil you can accidentally step through. Ancient Japan, Shinto, and early Buddhism, impermanence and shimmer. In Japan, reality is transient. Beauty lies in passingness. Spirits inhabit spaces and places. Mountains, rivers, and tools aren't inert. They flicker with presence. The dreamlike aspect is the world is momentary. Meaning appears and vanishes. Solidity is an emotional illusion. Existence feels like a shimmer, not a structure. Sufism, the world as a shadow of God. In Sufi traditions, the teachers say only God is truly real. The world is a reflection or shadow. The ego self is the deepest illusion. Rumi famously wrote, our favorite Sufi poet Rumi, why are you busy with this or that, or good or bad? Pay attention to how things blend. A dreamlike aspect, the multiplicity hides unity. The self you defend is not who you are. Awakening is remembrance, not discovery. The world is like a mirror hall, dazzling but indirect. And then we go to ancient Africa, Yoruba and Western African cosmologies. In Yoruba belief, there's the visible world, the invisible world. They interpenetrate constantly. Dreams, trance, ritual, and art are ways of crossing. The dreamlike aspect of this is reality is bi-directional. Ancestors are present, not gone. Consciousness moves between planes. Waking life is just one mode of attention. Siberian and Central Asian shamanism. Reality as navigable states. So shamans across Siberia, Mongolia, and Central Asia believe the soul travels during dreams. Illness comes from soul loss. The cosmos has multiple vertical levels. Drums, chants, and trance weren't symbolic, they were vehicles. The dreamlike aspect, consciousness is mobile. Reality changes with state. Ordinary waking is not privilege. The world is simply the default channel, not the only one. And we could go into Sumerian and Babylonian texts, which portray existence as dependent on divine will, easily undone by the gods, governed by fate. Floods, plagues, and reversals weren't accidents, they were reminders. The dreamlike aspect of this is reality lacks inherent security. Order can vanish overnight. Human control is illusory. Life feels like standing on a trapdoor held by the gods. And so all these different cultures and traditions, and why the dream metaphor they keep using, because things feel real while inside them. In dreams, meaning collapses when perspective shifts. Identity is malleable. Time is elastic. Attachment causes distress. Calling the world a dream isn't. It's dehypnosis. What's strikingly across all these different traditions is reality's layered. Appearance is not essence. Stability is borrowed. Identity is fluid. Awakening is reseen, not new seen. No ancient culture treats the everyday world as solid, final, self-sufficient, fully trustworthy. And so that's it. Thank you for being here. I think that was enough on all these cool ancient traditions. And if you like what you see, give a subscribe and a like to this video, and hopefully maybe this gives you more information to go and do some research on your own and check out all these ancient cultures and beliefs. And that's really the main staple, or one of the main components of self-realization, is realizing that this world is not real, just like our body, just like our mind, just like our emotions. And the one thing that is real is the self. The self is the only thing that's real, because it does not come and go, because it is impermanent. It is permanent, not impermanent. And that is the awareness, the observer, the witness within. That is self-realization. Once you're able to truly identify with that, I was going to say conceptualize, but there's nothing to conceptualize, because it goes beyond the mind. The mind can only conceptualize this non-reality, because the mind is part of this non-reality. So the mind can't understand or conceive or even entertain the idea of its non-existence, of what is observing the mind, of what is conscious of the mind. And that's a huge, huge thing. And yeah, thanks for being here, and we'll see you on the next one.